In his article, Boris Johnson described Theresa May's approach to Brexit as a scandal. In adopting the Chequers proposals, he wrote, "We've gone into battle with the white flag fluttering over our leading tank." Theresa May's number 10 team rubbished the attack. They said the former Foreign Secretary had produced no new ideas in this article to respond to. What we need at this time is serious leadership with a serious plan. MPs return from the summer break tomorrow. Some pro-Brexit Tories sound even more determined than ever to oppose Theresa May's Chequers plan. Some members of the European Research Group of pro-Brexit Tory MPs are trying to come up with their own plan for the EU negotiations. It would be quite a distance from Theresa May's Chequers plan, further away from EU institutions, more like a free trade agreement, a lot like what David Davis, as Brexit Secretary, was trying to cook up in his own department. And those who want this plan to come out want it to be published in the run-up to Tory conference, in the hope that they can use Tory activists gathered there to pressurise Theresa May to come off her plan and onto theirs.
I think she can now say, well, look, people have had a chance to look at Chequers. The EU don't like it, the Parliamentary Party and the wider party don't like it. Let's look at Plan B. I do think there's still that smidgen of goodwill to give her that wiggle room.
She could hold on, even though her plan had been rubbish, thrown out the window and rejected. She could hold on.
Yeah, I think she could, because I think, as David Davis has said,
not with
consistently,
much authority.
Well, she's not got a great deal of authority now, but she's got great resilience.
Tories who backed Remain have also been rubbishing Theresa May's approach.
This is the deal that is now more unpopular than the poll tax. It has the support of around just 14 or 15% of the public.
You do need to have a plan B, and I think that we are rapidly approaching the point where either the EU is not going to give the Prime Minister a deal that she can accept, or perhaps more likely that the deal that she does accept doesn't get through the House of Commons.
There are currently 20 Tory MPs signed up to the Stand Up for Brexit campaign. They're promising to throw themselves in front of the Chequers deal train to vote against it if necessary. And that would mean Theresa May would need 14 opposition MPs to come over and get her up to the magic 320 that gives her a majority of 1. But if the pro-Brexit Tory MPs are right, and there are actually 60 or more of them ready to rebel against the deal, that would mean Theresa May needs 50 plus Labour MPs and other opposition MPs to bail her out.
The truth is we know that there are quite a number of my colleagues who are more hardline leavers who have already said they will not support it. And so I think that we all have a responsibility to come up with another plan that could command the support of a majority of the House of Commons.
His plan involves spending a few years in a close relationship with the EU, like Norway's, before moving to a more distant one. But the weeks since the Chequers deal was agreed by the Cabinet have seen some unity break out in the warring wings of the Tory party. More and more Tory MPs seem to agree that the deal signed off here is all but dead.
Gary Gibbon. Now, in a moment, I'll be talking to Conservative MP Andrew Bridgen, a member of the pro-Brexit European Reform Group and one of a number of Conservative MPs who have publicly said they'll try to scupper the PM's Chequers plan. But first, from Westminster, fellow Conservative MP Gillian Keegan, who voted to remain in the EU and supports the Chequers plan. But Gillian Keegan, and thanks for joining us, in what sense is the Chequers plan still alive?
Well, it's still the option that's been delivered to the European Union, and I assume it's the basis that the negotiations have been taking place all over the summer break with the Secretary of State and the Prime Minister and others. So in terms of the one that's been tabled, it is still the one that is there, that is being discussed. But Monsieur Barnier has already said it's not a flyer. Sure, well, he would, wouldn't he, as in the famous words. You know, the reality is you cannot confuse negotiating with signalling. What he's doing and what everybody's been doing for a long time, which must be driving the poor British public mad, but what he's been doing is signalling. And there's a lot of signalling about what will and what won't be acceptable, you know, that's different from the negotiation, and it'll be very different from the outcome of the negotiation. We do not know the outcome of the negotiation. We are second-guessing as bystanders who are not actually involved in the process. So what we need to do is leave the negotiation to those that are negotiating and get behind them. But if those negotiations did result in the Brexit plan,
in truth, there isn't the mathematics to carry it through in the House of Commons?
Well, again, that's signalling again. When you have a deal that, let's say it was similar to the Chequers proposal, because clearly that proposal does compromise and does consider the EU's position, but most importantly, it's a low-risk Brexit, considering the business, the position of business, and also to keep business confidence. But let's consider that that's what comes back. If that does come back, then those people in the House of Commons, myself included, will have to look at that option or the other option, which will be WTO. And it's only when you have those real deals in front of you that you can do an analysis of risk. And of course, everybody has a different appetite to risk. And this is a lower risk Brexit. And I'm sure Andrew's going to come on and tell you why he would be a better negotiator. Yep. And of course, he would have probably a bigger appetite for risk. And that's fine. But the reality is the Prime Minister has the responsibility and accountability for the decision. And she's decided that a lower risk approach that doesn't undermine business confidence is the right way to go. But that is also workable for the EU.
When her former Foreign Secretary says we'll get 2/3 of diddly squat for anything that the Chequers agreement brings out, I mean, that's a pretty tawdry state of affairs.
Well, that's his view. First of all, what is 2/3 of diddly squat? I mean, it's hardly a technical term, is it? Businesses need more than rhetoric. Businesses need to continue to plan, to continue to invest, and to continue to make business decisions. 2/3 of diddly squat is meaningless. It's meaningless to a business. So I don't think we can take. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I've spent 27 years in business, in car manufacturing, in banking and financial services, and in IT. I was aware of the complexity of the things that we're discussing now before I voted in the referendum, because I've worked in these industries, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who sat in customs waiting to get a stranded car part to keep a production line going, who's in the House of Commons. The reality is businesses don't work on rhetoric. They need some facts, and it is getting ever closer to March. This is a deal that businesses on the whole would look at and think, it keeps frictionless trade moving, right, but also, most importantly, does deliver on the key things of the referendum, which is ending free movement and obviously having our own farming and fishing policy, etc.
Right. Okay, well, Gillian Keegan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, as I said, Andrew Bridgen, what is yours and, well, possibly even Boris Johnson's plan?
Well, we think that the Chequers plan is very poor. I've been very clear. I wouldn't support Chequers.
But I'm asking what your plan would be.
I wouldn't support Chequers if the EU were paying us for it, let alone us paying £39 billion of taxpayers' money for it. I want a Canada plus free trade deal.
Which to our viewers means?
A free trade deal where we have mutual acceptance of standards. We don't take the common rule, but we won't be under the EU regulations. A deal that the EU have done with Canada and recently with Japan. And the difference is that neither of those countries paid any money for those free trade deals. It will be the easiest free trade deal ever done in the world. We have exactly the same standards currently because we're in the European Union. It's only a matter of agreeing with Mr. Barnier what he wants tariffs on. We want no tariffs at all. We want totally free trade.
Well, the boss of the WTO, Mr. Azevedo, who seems to know a thing or two about negotiating entry into the WTO as a process, says it's no walk in the park. There are many layers of agreement, quote, and it will be no straight deal.
Well, talking about having a free trade deal with the European Union, most free trade deals, the big stumbling block is mutual acceptance of standards, a level playing field. But we go in for the first time any free trade deal in the world, we have exactly the same standards of the European Union because we're in the European Union.
Are you against a no deal?
I'm not against no deal. No deal is not as scary as people are made out. It's not no deal. It's WTO.
It's falling off a cliff.
It's
a
WTO.
Massive shortage of medicines.
WTO. They're rules that we help to write. It's the way we trade with most of the world. It's the way that our exports are growing the fastest on WTO rules. It's nothing to be scared of. 20% of our food now comes in under WTO rules.
To fall off a cliff.
And they won't be. That is rhetoric. It's like the millennium bug. This is all hype. I've spoken to the ports. There is no problem with moving to WTO
I'm
and
going to have you
importing
back.
goods.
If this still happens, I'm going to have you back.
Except for Dover, because you turn up and go, and they will need to change
I'll
their
visit
business
that
model.
upon you when this happens, and if there is anything like that to be seen. Boris, if you had the choice, would it be Mrs May or Boris Johnson you'd like as Prime Minister? What
I'd really like is Mrs May to drop Chequers and go to the free trade deal I'm looking for.
So you're still confident in her leadership?
I've put a letter of no confidence in. That's public knowledge. That's because Theresa May's backing the Chequers proposals. They're so unpopular. They're only supported as a good deal by 11% of the electorate. That can't happen. It's not tenable. It's not a tenable position.
How many of the electorate support Boris?
And it won't go through. Well, there was a poll out yesterday saying it was 25% more than Theresa May to deliver Brexit. But that's because of the Chequers proposals, which are deeply unpopular. I've always been of the opinion that we need a Brexiteer to deliver Brexit. You've got to believe in Brexit to deliver Brexit.
Andrew Bridgen, thank you very much for joining us.